Salam, friends. I'm so pleased that Karim is back here with me. And today we are taking this opportunity to talk about the significance of the Islamic New Year, which is Muharram, which we are in right now in 2020, and also the significance of Ashura. Salam, Karim. How are you?
Hi, Tanya. Good.
It,
How are you?
it's so great to see you again and have the opportunity to chat with you about this.
Same here. It's great to see you.
So, Karim, I would love for you to talk a little bit about the significance of Muharram for Muslims, it being the first at the beginning of the year for us. It's the beginning of the new year, the first of Muharram. And what is the importance of Muharram for Muslims? And maybe after that, we can talk about the first 10 days of Muharram and why they are so important for us.
Sure. First of all, from the historical point of view, the first of Muharram, 622, is the year when Prophet Muhammad actually migrated from Mecca to Medina, and that's the date that we used as an origin for the Islamic calendar. And the Islamic calendar is based on the moon rather than like the regular calendar that we use, which is based on the sun. So for the Islamic historian, we're using this date, the first Muharram, as an origin for any kind of dates that we use. But before that, we know that there are several things that happened during that month, and especially the 10th of Muharram, which is, we call it the day of Ashura. And well, a couple examples that I want to give for the things that happened during that time is one, the first one is the Adam's repentance was accepted by God based in Muharram and the first 10 days. And the second one is historically, I'm trying to be chronological as possible. Noah's Ark is believed was actually hit the mountain Ararat on the Ashura day, which is 10th of Muharram. And that actually has an importance for us because we use the word Ashura for sweet that we serve every year during that time, and that is like a pudding, and that's made of from different small things like beans and wheat and rice and whatnot. It's like a sweet. It's served as a sweet thing, and that is believed that in the Ark and Noah's Ark, we we have a pair for each animal, and we have a little bit of like wheat and and rice and whatnot. So he mixed them and he made like a soup, and and that's how they actually survived. That's the food that they had. That's what we believe. So symbolizing that, every year during that time we actually serve the same sweet, the ashura, and it symbolizes the unity and the when we're together, togetherness is actually our power. And that's how we survive. That's what it symbolized in the Noah's Ark. Prophet Abraham was born during that time, and he was actually saved from fire. Was done by Nemrut during that time. Jacob's eyes were opened that time, and Joseph's, as he was saved from the jail at the same time. Ayub's, the Ayub, the prophet Ayub, he was saved from all the illnesses the same day, 10th of Muharram. And Moses was born in Muharram, and he was saved in Muharram also. And during this Red Sea situation, and the Pharaoh was killed the same day. David's repentance also was accepted the same time. Solomon became a king. Jones, the Yunus, he was saved from the belly of the whale. And Jesus was born and taken the same time. And Hazrat Muhammad was told by God that previous and future, all the sins were actually forgiven. The 10th of Muharram. So all those, there are many more things that happened in Muharram, but we pretty much don't know much. But that's why Muharram is one of the most important months, not only for Muslim point of view, but also for the whole religion's point of view.
That is so interesting that so many historical events have happened around the time of what is now, for the last 622 AD, called Muharram. This was such a sacred time in the
Right,
in
right.
the year.
In Jewish religion, for instance, they also like in Jewish actually used to fast 9th, 10th, and 11th date of Muharram. So we have similar things in Muslim religion. We also, Prophet Muhammad said also it was a good thing that we fast during the first 10 days of Muharram too.
So we always hear about the story of Karbala during this month. Maybe we could talk a little bit briefly about the story of Karbala here.
Sure. That's actually a very sad story, as you all know. I don't really want to go into too much details in like politic situation of Karbala or the historical things about Karbala. Maybe our audience probably knows about the whole situation that the grandson of Prophet Muhammad, Hussein, was killed. Um, and his whole family of 72 family members were killed in the place in the northern Iraq called Karbala. Yazid actually Muawiyah called Hussein for a so-called peace, and he was kind of tricked to this. And with the whole family and without any armory, he actually decided to come and meet Yazid and Muawiyah. So the whole family, which is, like I said, that we're talking about 72 people, and we're talking about 12,000 enemy. They faced each other during that time. Day by day, the family members actually lost their lives. And the 10th day of Muharram, finally, they actually killed Hussein while he was actually praying. So that was the end of the siege. And only one man from the family was able to survive because he was sick at that time, and his name is Zain al-Abidin, who was actually the whole inheritance comes from Zain al-Abidin, because all the Prophet Muhammad's blood was actually was going to be ended during that siege. But thank God that Zain al-Abidin actually survived, and his inheritance came from him. So it was a very sad story, obviously. Like I said, I'm not going to get into too much details.
And the history is there. Everybody knows the history.
Everybody knows the history.
We're aware of it. But what I'm interested to understand and share with our audience is that sometimes it is very hard to believe that something of this proportion, of this magnitude, and this tragedy would happen to Prophet Muhammad's family. It's hard to believe, and it's hard to reconcile, rather, not to believe. And what is perhaps the message, the teaching for us in present time, especially? What are we to learn from this great tragedy that struck the Muslim world?
Right.
And
right.
how are we not living those principles or following those in present day? But perhaps more as to what is the essence of What was the
Right.
teaching? Why the suffering?
Right. I always think about the situation, and from my perspective, from a Sufi perspective, rather, I think the same situation happens every single day in our body. From my perspective, is we have our hearts, and in our hearts, there's always a fight between the nefs and ego and the spirit. So what I think is, there is an army of the spirits, and there is the army of the nefs and ego, and they always fight every single day. And one of them is representing Hussein, the other one is representing Yazid. But the thing is, we always say bad words about Yazid, but actually every day, every single day, we're in this situation. The army, what is the army of Yazid? In our hearts, in our ego, like the rat, all those bad emotions that we have,
The anger,
the
the hatred.
anger, the
Yeah.
you know um, hate, especially the hate. These are like the army of Yazid, and it lives with us. It is every day you live with that. And then there's the army of Hussein, the goodness. The things that you do for other people, the good things that you do for other people, the smile, your smiles, and everything all together. Uh, so the fights between Yazid and Hussein during that time is not different than the fight that we have every single day. So every time I hear the story of Karbala, I always look at myself and think about what I did today. If I gossiped about somebody, today, because everybody does that, we're like, it's normal. But what I do is I actually add one more person to the army, and I'm actually when I gossip, that means I'm actually with Yazid and fighting against Hussein. But when I do something good for other people, which, like, what Prophet Muhammad says every single day, he said, help other people, right? So when I help another person, that means I'm actually helping the army of um, Hussein. So this whole thing happened to leave us an example, but that example wouldn't mean anything unless we actually follow it every single day. Because all those historical events, if if they don't mean anything in today's world, that means they die for nothing, which is not something that we want, obviously.
Which is such a powerful lesson you're giving through your words, because it's true, we cannot have those tragedies in vain at all. And the fact that you're saying that Yazid and Hussein live within us is also such a powerful teaching, because yes, every single day we are facing Karbala. We are in a situation where we have to take a decision. It's either this way or that. And which path are we going to choose? Which army are we going to embolden more? Is it going to be Hussein's, or is it going to be Yazid's?
The funny thing is that we actually say bad things about Yazid. He says we're like, we're saying you're a bad person, you're a bad person. But when it comes to us, we do the same exact things, actually. So taking example from the situation is actually not doing bad things to other people. It's as easy as that.
So, from that perspective, in this present time, as we, especially the first 10 days that we mourn, is that perhaps, if we were to look at it from the time that we're in, are these first 10 days more of, should we be more conscious of the Yazid and the Hussein army inside us? Or is this really a daily reminder? Is this something it should not just be Muharram that should remind us of that?
Right. I think it's every day, obviously, but we're not going to be just only talking about this 10 days. But these 10 days, there is actually a story in the book of Fuzuli. There is a rivaya, it's like a story. It says when Hussein was born, Gabriel came and he gave that news to Prophet Muhammad. He said, I have a good news, I have a bad news for you. The good news is your grandson was born. His name is Hussein, and he's gonna be killed in Karbala. So he gave both news at the same time, and we understand that Prophet Muhammad got really upset, and he had a little tear in his eyes, and that Ali actually saw the tears, and he asked the question, and Prophet Muhammad told him the story, and then Ali was upset too. So Fatima saw that, and she comes and Prophet Muhammad told her the same story, and she says, well, my son is gonna die in Karbala, but who's gonna be upset for this situation? And Prophet Muhammad says, everybody who follows me in his life is gonna be upset for that situation during that time. So to respect that in those 10 days, because this is like as if somebody from your family died. How do you feel? Like Prophet Muhammad is the father, the mother, everything to me. So that's why when his descendants were killed, I can't be really happy about that. Every day we have to think about the situation, what happened to Hussein and what happened to Yazid at the same time. So we should choose our, we choose Hussein or choose Yazid.
Yeah, that's absolutely powerful. Also, I find it very interesting, and I've had conversations around this where, usually the New Year in the Gregorian calendar, the one that's the solar calendar, is always celebrated. The New Year arrives and there's a lot of celebration, and it's but for us, we start with reflection and lamentation. And I always feel like that's such a powerful and important way and a sobering way to start the year, because when we are aware of pain and when we're aware of the reality that you cannot escape, that suffering is a part of life, that tragedy will come in some shape or form in everybody's life. But when we say the Bismillah of the New Year, when we begin the New Year with that awareness, it almost makes the rest of the year, or the sweetness of the rest of the year, more pronounced. We become more aware and more respectful and more grateful for the happier times, wherever, whenever, however they come.
Very true, very true. And as long as we're in balance, and people have the tendency to go south or north. We have to be in the middle. It's not like Prophet Muhammad says. Actually, there's no mourning in Islam. It's not like mourning. It's when something bad happened to your family. How do you feel? That's all it is, pretty much. But not like you have to have pain and to that's not the essence of that. It's like you said exactly, to be in the middle, right? Starting this new year with balance, actually.
And also the remembrance. It's more for us as human beings. The one thing that we do well is we forget. That's why the zikr, the remembrance, every year at this time, remembering what happened and what our history is it just keeps us rooted. It keeps us reminded of what our beginning is, where we started, what our history, what our ancestral history is.
Very true.
More of a remembrance rather than making it an occasion to mourn, which of course it is a sad event nonetheless.
Right. one last thing that I should say is to be able to say something actually nice is the fact that the day, the Muharram first is, like I said, the first day of when Prophet Muhammad actually moved from Mecca to Medina. And the name of Medina was not Medina at that time. It's called Yesrib. Yesrib was the city, but it was not a city at that time. Actually, it's like a small town. So when Prophet Muhammad went there, he did something from the perspective of planning the city. Basically, he put the temple in the middle of the city, and that's not something usual. When people actually plan to build a city, they actually put the castle or whoever is going to live as the emperor or whatever, the king. His house is going to be in the middle of the city, right? But Prophet Muhammad did something else. He actually put the temple, the jami, in the middle of the mosque, in the middle of the city. So that symbolizes the fact that, like, the city is like our body, right? And the middle of our body, we have the heart. If God is in the heart of the person, is as if the city has the temple in the center, right? The same thing. That means that city becomes actually a Medina, a Shahir, which is, Medina means civilization, and it also means the city. So Yesrib becomes Medina, the city, with the fact that there is, in the middle, there's a temple that we actually have God in our hearts. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's happened in Muharram first. Obviously that's started the whole city thing, and I wanted to add that.
That is so incredible. Actually, I didn't know this piece of history. And the fact that, in this present time, especially, we talk about how God is an entity that has been removed from our schools, from our homes,
Right.
from,
Right.
we really don't go to places of worship anymore. We live such a materialistic life now.
Right.
But the fact that it's symbolic to have the temple right in the center, to have the masjid, the jami in the center of the city, just like the heart is right there.
Exactly.
It's like an invitation to remember also that in the heart resides the divine.
And that makes you civilized.
Wow.
That's Medina means civilization. Medina, the word Medeniyet comes, the Arabic word Medeniyet, and Medina, the same words. They're coming from the same root, and that means civilization.
Wow, that is so beautiful. To have God in your heart is creating a civil human being.
Right, exactly.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for that. Wow. I'm so glad we connected and we had a short, sweet, but so powerful, lovely chat about a very important topic. I feel like there's so many people that wonder about this, and also the significance of it, not just because in a lot of Sunni households versus Shia households, there's not a lot of history information that is related, but this is our history. This is not Sunni or Shia. This is our collective history.
Absolutely.
We must know this.
Absolutely.
So beautiful. Thank you so much, Kerim.
Thank you very much, Tanya.
It's always a pleasure to see you.
Same here. Same here.